What's up, everyone? Welcome to this support gameplay commentary. Today I'm going to be doing a game with Bacchus. I've been doing a couple of support gameplays recently, and I haven't had any commentary with it, so I figured I'd do one with a little bit more, some insights that I have. So I did a Fafnir one, and it was like tips and tricks on how to support for players who maybe either haven't played support before, or let's say you try to call your role and someone gets it before you, so you're stuck with it. So that kind of player. This video, I'm going to try to go a little bit more in depth, and it's going to be specific for Bacchus, because there are things I want to talk about with the build and how you play Bacchus, issues that he has, and also his advantages, because he does have some big issues, especially in the early game, for a couple of reasons. I'll just have this playing in the background. It's a pretty short game, so I won't make this video too long. But we'll talk about his early game, the pressure, and his mana usage. He does a lot of damage. I'll say that right away. Bacchus is one of the highest damaging support characters in the entire game. His ultimate does way too much damage. The reason it's okay is because there are a lot of other drawbacks. So even though he does a lot of damage, his wave clear is really bad. And so that means he's going to get out pressured a lot. And in this match, I'm playing with an Uller who has awesome clear, so that helps. We're playing against a Neith and an Athena, so that's pretty good combo. Athena doesn't have amazing clear, but Neith does, so honestly this should be kind of even. But the second issue that I talked about was mana usage. So Bacchus has a big issue with mana, especially in the early game. His abilities use a whole lot, especially his one ability, because you're going to be using that over and over again, and that just takes all of your mana out. So you're going to have to build a little bit of mana on him. I actually like to do Shoes of Focus on Bacchus. It depends on how you're doing. If you're in lane and let's say you die once or twice, definitely go into Reinforced Shoes. That's pretty common, and honestly, if you're playing support, you could get reinforced shoes on anybody and it would be fine. But for Bacchus, you might want to go focus boots for the extra mana and also the cooldown. Bacchus loves cooldown, again, to get that one buff up as quickly as possible. And of course, to have a little bit more, CC potential with your knockup and then your stun as well. The thing about Bacchus, again, is because he does so much early damage and damage throughout the entire game, there are some other drawbacks. So I have actually some stats, just base stats that I came up with, and I wanted to compare Bacchus to some other characters. If we look at Bacchus's health, he starts with 495 health, and he scales 86 per level, which means that at level 20, he's going to have 2,215 health. That's pretty low. In fact, I think it's the lowest of any Guardian. I was looking at most of them, and I couldn't find another Guardian that was lower than him, so I'm going to go ahead and say right now that Bacchus probably has the lowest base health stats in the game. To give you a comparison, Cabrakan has 490 health, and he scales plus 90 health per level, which means that at level 20, he will have 2,290 health. So he has 75 extra health compared to Bacchus at level 20. And that's just because his scaling is a little bit higher. As far as protections goes, most Guardians have almost the same protections, and they usually scale the same. Bacchus has 19 physical protections at level 1, and then plus 3 per level. So I think including level 1, that would be 22. And then, so at level 20, he has 79 physical protections. Magical protections are a little bit higher, but they scale lower. I think the reason behind that is because generally early magical damage is pretty strong compared to physical damage. So you think of an AD carry, they're much more of a late game damage dealer, so it makes sense for physical damage to scale higher in the late game. Whereas magical protection, so he starts off with 30 magical protections and it scales 0.9 per level, which means at the end of the game he will have 48 magical protections. Those two, the physical protections and the magical protections, are very common. There are a lot of supports that have pretty much the same ones. I will use Cabrakan as another example. Cabrakan's physical protections at level 1 are 23, so that's That's 4 more at level 1, and it scales 3.3, so the scaling is higher. So Cabrakan is actually a pretty good character if you're playing against a physical comp. That's something that you might want to remember. Probably not as a support, but let's say you're playing in the solo lane. Um, that's another reason that Cabrakan actually works in the solo lane, because his physical protections scale very, very well, and they're at a base level very high. So Bacchus in general, low health. Again, the lowest health guardian in the game. Kind of surprising, you wouldn't expect it, but it's because of his high damage that he kind of gets away with that. And the reason that I'm kind of bringing all this up is when you're looking at starting to see, how you want to build your support, there are a couple of factors that you really want to take into effect. Now, as a rule of thumb, supports need health and protections, and that's pretty obvious. I think most people know that. But if you're looking to maybe switch things up, you want to look at their base stats and kind of figure out which stat you might want to focus on. So because Bacchus has pretty much average protections, and they scale at, the very average scaling numbers, that means you could actually focus more on the health early, because that base stat is lacking. Supports in general have very, very high base stats. Of course, the highest health stats, pretty much the highest magical and physical protection stats. So their base stats are very good, which is also why they don't really do any damage. So, when looking to what you want to build for your support, of course, you could just go all health if you wanted to, but then you're left without any protections, and your health is only as good as the protections that you have with it, and same goes for protections. If you just have all protections, it doesn't matter because they kind of go hand in hand together. But you can kind of get away with sneaky things early game, is my point. Because their base stats are so high, you can get away with maybe just doing, let's say, Gauntlet of Thebes. So the season 4 is starting tomorrow when I'm recording this, and Gauntlet of Thieves recently changed. It's an all health item, but it does have an aura on it, and that's an item that I've been seeing a lot of supports in the PTS pick up, and I think it's great for Bacchus because of the fact that he has very low base health compared to other guardians. So I think in season 4, if Gauntlet of Thebes continues to get picked up, that's something that you're definitely going to want to use on Bacchus. And that kind of leads me into my next topic that I kind of want to talk about, not specifically involving Bacchus, but what supports we'll be using in Season 4. And I've seen a lot of different things. So again, I've seen Gauntlet of Thebes be pretty popular because it has like a Sovereignty Heartward aura built into the passive now, and it's just a health item, so you kind of run a risk. If you just build health, again, you're going to suffer because the health that you have is only as good as the protections you have with it. So you don't want to build just health. You really want to mix, and that's why I've seen supports. For instance, Jigs, he streams quite a lot, and I know he is sticking to the Sovereignty Heartward build in Season 4, at least as it is right now. That's what he thinks is the best start, and it's kind of hard to argue with him because with Sovereignty and Heartwood Amulet, you get both health and protections, and you get an aura to help your allies. So you get 3 things that you really, really want as a support. Whereas if you just pick up Gauntlet of Thebes, you're missing the protections. Of course, you get the aura with it, and you get the health, but you're not getting kind of as much worth as far as sovereignty. So that's kind of the issues I'm seeing with the new start. It seems like Sovereignty Heartward is still kind of the way to go, but it could depend. On a god like Bacchus, I think it works, Gauntlet of Thebes. And Stone of Gaia is another one too. I've seen some people say that Stone of Gaia is actually a really good support item now with the passive, so that could be interesting. So we'll see what happens in Season 4. That's just kind of my overview. There's a little bit of confusion, I think, as to what's going to happen with builds, but I'd be interested to see. I think Sovereignty Heartward is a solid build. It's tough to kind of argue with those auras. But before I get too off track, we can talk about a general kind of what items to keep in mind for Bacchus. So again, Watcher's Gift, Shoes of Focus, Sovereignty, Heartward Amulets are good. Spear Robe, Mantle of Discord once you get into the late game. You might want to do a Wingblade if there's a slow on their team. Again, other health items as Season 4 comes out, Gauntlet of Thebes. those are really the items you want to keep an eye out for right now. There are other situational ones that you might want to use, but that's a pretty good overview. As far as leveling abilities, I leveled up my 3 first here. That's wrong. You want to, in my opinion, it's wrong. I think you want to do the belly flop first. It does the most damage. Of course, the 3 ticks and it's wave clear, but the belly flop is also wave clear too. And if you collapse the wave in the right way, you can hit every minion in the wave with your belly flop. So it's more damage. If you collapse the wave, you got it. I think that's the one you really want to get first. And of course, the knockup is really strong. Not that that matters when you max it. But the 3 just doesn't do as much damage. I think you want to do the 2 first, the 3, then you can actually level the ults. You don't really need to level the 1. The 1, you know, I think the mana cost goes down when you level it. I'm not sure about that, but I'm sure the cooldown probably goes as well, but you don't need the cooldown on the 1. Once you get into late game, you know, once you have your passes stacked, you don't even need to use your 1 anymore. So cooldown on it doesn't really matter all that much late game, but it does matter early game. So that's kind of why I go into Shoes of Focus. And then finally, as this game kind of wraps up, talking about Bacchus's playstyle and how you want to use him, definitely go really aggressive with him. Be careful early game. Make sure not to belly flop into too many dumb situations. But once you start getting your build online in the late game, go super aggressive. Don't be afraid to just ult whenever. Don't save your ult. Make sure you use it in big team fights. And as always, when you're supporting, once you use your abilities, don't back out. Just keep fighting using your auto attacks. That's something that I always try to say. People think that once Bacchus' kit is down, you kind of just need to back up. That's not true. You need a front line. Make sure you're out there in the late game and doing your thing. So I guess that was kind of a short overview. I hope it's been helpful seeing all the stats and how to play Bacchus. So I hope you enjoyed it. And again, this is kind of the end of the match here. So we're going to wrap it up. I hope you have a great day, and thanks so much for watching.